Welcome to the P-51 Lucy Gal project. My name is Austin Hancock. I am a pilot and flight instructor currently living in Rochester, New York. I am also a museum professional. I work with the National Warplane Museum in Geneseo. And today I'm just going to run through a little bit about what the Lucy Gal project is. I know we've seen a lot on social media about it from my posts, and a lot of you probably don't know the whole backstory because this thing is started years ago and then has a few years off, and we're getting back into it. What the Lucy Gal project is it's a tribute to a local Tuskegee Airman named Leland Pennington. His nickname was Sticks. He was from Rochester, New York, and he went missing in action on April 21st of 1945. He was en route to an escort mission over Austria, and somewhere over Croatia, he had an issue, and he said he was going back to base, and they never found him after that. That was his last transmission. My whole goal is to try and keep his legacy alive. A little bit of backstory about me. I mentioned the Warplane Museum earlier. I grew up down there. My dad used to volunteer before I was even born. And so as I was growing up, he would bring me down when he'd help out. He'd give tours. He'd be pushing me around in a stroller when he was doing that. He used a lot of my old onesies to help polish the B-17 they used to have. Just grew up, learning all about the different airplanes there. I had a really early exposure to it, learning about the B-17, the AT-6, my favorite, the P-51 Mustang, all those aircraft we had there at the time. So once I grew old enough here, so I began volunteering. I think I was about 12 or 13, and they used to have, before the air show every year, this big Tuskegee history program, and they'd have Dr. David Anderson from Rochester, New York, who's a local African-American historian. He would come down and he would give kids from the city of Rochester a spiel about the Tuskegee Airmen, give them the whole story. Then Charlie Price would also come to tell the kids about what it was like to be a Tuskegee Airman. He was part of the Red Tails during the war, and he was in charge of flight planning, so he didn't fly. But I got to know Charlie Price pretty well because I started off as a tour guide for this program when I was, like I said, 12 or 13, somewhere around there. And, got to know Price pretty well, and he told me about his friend Leland Pennington, who went missing in action. And given that I was interested in the Tuskegee, the Mustang was my favorite airplane, I kind of took that idea of honoring Leland and just ran with it. Where we are today is the goal is to eventually get a flying tribute of the P-51 Lucy Gal, which was the name of Pennington's Mustang. He named it after his wife. We want to have a flying tribute of Lucy Gal in the skies over Geneseo and all over the country. How to go about that? There are different options. We'd ideally like to get a restoration project and finish it off, but that's going to take some fundraising. Really, we're about preserving aviation history and telling the story of underdog aviators, people who really came from diverse backgrounds or didn't really stand a chance of being a pilot, but worked through adversity and really became what they wanted to become. I myself have had to overcome a lot to get to where I am as a pilot. And I was inspired along the way by stories of the Tuskegee, of the Wasps. We're doing a display at the museum around that, and we want to grow that into this Lucy Gal project to educate future generations and to get them inspired as well. Currently, what we're doing is we're developing a display around the AT-6 Texan that we have at the museum. We're also collecting parts for the Lucy Gal, the Mustang. When we have the instrument panel done, we have a few of the controls, we have the gun camera, which actually is the same gun camera from the T6, so that will help with that restoration. Just kind of growing from there. I've given a lot of presentations over the last few months about this project. I think 18 total to different libraries, senior communities, different kids groups. We're getting ready in a couple of weeks to actually have a tent at the Geneseo Air Show, my home base. That'll kind of be exciting, again, promoting what we want to do with the T6 and then eventually the Mustang. Ideally, our first step would be restoring a T6, getting that flying, and using that as a segue into Lucy Gal to gain momentum, to gain interest, because people like tangible things, and an aircraft, especially a T6, is very tangible, and that's the same type of aircraft that all the Mustang pilots learned to fly in the war, Leland Pennington included. I myself last year went down to South Carolina to Warbird Adventures and did my T6 training with Wes and at Tom's place down there, and it was great. I'd like to kind of head that effort up of being a T6 flying and making that phase one of this project. It would serve to be a medium for outreach through education, through air shows and hands-on displays, really get people excited, and that will build us into being able to handle a P-51. If we can train our guys up, train me to fly a Mustang, train others to fly the Mustang, it shows that we're ready for it. I kind of rambled on a bit there, but this is something that really excites me. definitely subscribe to this YouTube channel, P-51 Lucy Gal. Like the videos, because I guess something about the algorithm, I don't know, it seems to be what YouTubers say. Below in the description are links for our Substack, which is basically a newsletter. You can subscribe to that. Every week or so we put out an update about what the latest news is. You'll find a link for the GoFundMe. Right now, we're trying to raise money for display materials for the permanent display at the museum, and also for the traveling display, which will be at the Genesee Air Show. Also for materials to restore a T6. There's also a link for our website. Our social media is down there, so definitely check that out. Like I said, like and subscribe this video, and keep coming back here for more. I just want to thank you all for your support, for your interest in this project. It's really a passion of mine. I want to be able to use my skills as a pilot to keep this story alive through flying the PT-26, the AT-6, the Mustang, you name it. I want to fly it and keep them flying to be able to tell these stories, because really that's what makes a difference. You know, you can talk about these stories all day long. You can put them in books, put them in movies, but until you get up to the aircraft, touch it, feel it, hear it, and see it fly, and then, you land and the pilot says, hey, you want us to sit in the cockpit? I want to be that guy, and that's really what makes an impact. Again, that's the way we're headed, and I just thank you for your time. Look forward to doing more of these. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Keep them flying.